My name is Yvonne Panofsky and I'm from Holland, and the name of my quilt is The Garden of My Life. What inspired me to make it is that I had done a workshop with jelly plate printing, and I thought, well, again, a few pieces of material here, and let me try and make a harmonious design with it. So it was an experiment, and it started off just like this, looking for a background and putting the pieces on, and from there it went on. And it's like a writer sometimes says that when they're writing, somebody comes into the book and somebody writes themselves out of the book, and that is actually how it went on. My way of quilting is I like to manipulate the material. I love stitching to make all kinds of structures and using thread for that. And so I started, and that's the way it went. I turned 75 this year, and the further I went on with it, and I was also thinking back of all the periods in my life, friends of mine had died, I started to see that this was a sort of a garden, and a garden of my life. I mean, all the different periods. Some periods were smooth, others were rough. So in that way, it grew and it grew. I mean, if you look here, there's a maze. That happens in life. You get into a maze, but you find a way out again too. And originally, the quilt, as you see, was only like this, but then it grew. It just grew and grew and grew, and it got longer and longer. And the red is for all emotions in life, the positive and the negative ones. And the green is for the harmony and the peaceful times in your life. Well, there's one little piece in it. This piece of stitching, actually. I did a workshop, and I still had that there. Maybe you can see it was with putting paint on, and then stitching that same image in paint. And I didn't like the color which was in here, so suddenly I saw the color fitting in here and put it in there. Well, that's how it worked. It was the first time I made an art quilt actually from nothing, just from pieces. Before that, I had a vague idea of what I wanted to do, and also that grew until the finished project. But this was actually quite a challenge. A year. You know, you see, that's the lovely thing of quilting and making your own design. You don't always know how to go further. It's fascinating if you see what's happening, but sometimes it's frustrating because you just don't know, and you have to step back and you have to leave it there, and then, I don't know, it's like there's a drawer at the back of your head and you've seen something or some idea comes, and then you go on again. It's exciting, and the reason to participate is not to win. The reason is because I go to many other quilt exhibitions, and I enjoy them, and we can have the quilt exhibitions because other people are sending in their work. And if we don't do that, we don't have these wonderful occasions. So I like to put in my share that way, and I'm happy to have the occasion to promote my quilt, not my quilt, but quilting in general. I only started art quilting 4.5 years ago. I was stimulated by Hilde van Schaardenburg. She was one of the judges here the last few years. And I had done a lot of what do you call it, embroidery with my wonderful Bernina 830, and that's why I was very happy to be able to join in, because I've had so much pleasure from my machine, all the things I can do on it. And I'd for years wanted to expand my boweries, but I just didn't have the guts, I think you call it in English, to do it. And Hilda stimulated me. And at the time my son said to me, you know, maybe you'll find out that there are no borders. And he was right. I mean, the border is always in yourself. And it's an adventure. Shortly after I'd started, my husband ended his life, and I thought, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? You know, of course you are grieving. I've made a 3D object, which is in the show too, because I try to make tangible what it is when you're grieving for someone you've lived with and you've loved for so many years. We all know you're sad, but you kind of fall into a pitch, and then you slowly come out of it, and then you fall into it again, and you learn to climb out of it. And so I've made that, but I decided, what do I want to do? I mean, I could grieve for the rest of my life, you see people, and I didn't want that. I still wanted to make something of my life. And I knew at the time, a few years ago, you know, you can't walk that fast, you can't run that fast for a bus. Things are getting slower and slower. But the wonderful thing about quilting is the way at least I feel, the way I'm doing it, it has brought me a goal in life, and I see myself developing. I see myself learning new things, which is exciting, which gives me energy, and it has brought me so many friends.